Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Shawn the Baptist Show for Sunday, March 29th. It is the third Sunday of pandemic time. Now, that is, of course, I guess the liturgical title for this day now. This time that is unlike any other, so it's pandemic time. Third Sunday. It's hard to believe that it was just 2 weeks ago, 3 Sundays ago, that we were just getting word that we were dispensed throughout the diocese from attending Sunday Mass, although Sunday Mass would still go on. We were dispensed from attending, and then Monday, things started changing, and by Tuesday, everything was shut down. And of course, this is our second weekend without Mass together in the church, and it's an ongoing adjustment for all of us. So, a little bit about what's going on here at St. Patrick's. So, very much Father Mark and I are adjusting to what is the new normal, and I'd love to hear from you all tonight. Feel free to chime in with your questions. I would love to hear those, and I'd like to hear, especially tonight, a little bit about how your Sunday celebrations at home went today. What did you do when you couldn't go to Mass today? What was it like? Did you use a prayer service that the Archdiocese put out? I know we shared one on the St. Patrick webpage as well. Some people mentioned praying the Liturgy of the Hours together. Did you do that? I'd love to hear from some kids too. Have them say what it was like. I know that so far each Sunday's been a little bit different for us here at St. Patrick's. We've toyed with doing different things and trying to figure out what would be best. We've kind of settled into, people have been asking, like, okay, when will Mass be broadcast live? Well, we're not exactly sure that we want to do that. So I'd love to hear your feedback on that. What we've kind of settled on here is that Father Mark and I are not going to live stream or share the daily Masses, but on the weekend, we're certainly committed to the fact that the people have said that they would like to see Mass recorded from the parish here. So we're doing that. And so far, we haven't quite decided to go live very much. So here's the deal with that. The whole point of going live, at least to me, seems to be that it allows some interaction, like we're doing right now. I can see that Tanya Carpenter and Betty Ann Batson and Katie Gates have all joined and are watching now. So it allows some kind of interaction. There's not a whole lot of need for that, I suppose, during the celebration of the Mass. So that's why we haven't exactly gone live. However, I am getting a little bit more updated on my video skills. So we did put the Spanish Mass live today, which means that I was running around the church with my iPad and controlling camera and audio and voiceover even. And so that was something new for me. I'm doing that too. So if anyone has an idea of what they'd like to see there, if they want live, so you can feel like you're joining in real time, that's something that we can make happen. Just let me know. Patricia is saying that you watched the Pope in the morning and the Archbishop and started the day with a rosary online. Listened to Scott Hahn, his Swear to God CD in the afternoon. Wow, Patricia is just rocking it there at her house. The little domestic church is just going strong there. What did you do today? What did your family do? I'll just share with you right now this little clip from at least the beginning of my homily. So I recorded Father Mark celebrating Mass last night. So he did the Mass. We recorded it Saturday evening, so I could get it up on the webpage for Sunday morning for people to use. Sorry it didn't quite get up there. We had some technical difficulties, and so it got up later this morning. But if you go to the St. Patrick webpage, you can see the recorded Mass. And if you're on the St. Patrick Facebook page, of course, you see it there. I will be happy now to share a little bit of my homily this morning. So I had Mass by myself this morning, and then I decided to record my homily. As you know, I always record my homily for my ShawnTheBaptist.org website. And this time, like, well, we're doing video stuff, so I did make a video of my homily and grab the audio of that for my podcast. So here is a little bit of the beginning of my homily from this morning. Deus semper maior. God is always greater. Deus semper maior. This consecrated Latin phrase has come to us down through the years to remind us that if ever we think we have figured out God, if ever we think that somehow God has done all he can do, or that we have seen everything, even great miracles or great workings of God, Deus semper maior. God is always greater. And I think those words are especially important for us to remember when it seems that things are going badly, that God seems to be hidden. On this Sunday of which we begin the traditional season of Passiontide, we often cover our statues and crosses in purple to intensify our fasting, to now fast even from the beautiful images that we would see. Comes from a tradition in which the gospel on this day in the extraordinary form, the Latin Mass, talks of Jesus hiding himself. All right, that's a little bit from my homily this morning. Deus semper maior. Let's talk a little bit about that just briefly. Deus semper maior. God is always greater. I forget which one of the church fathers might have originally said that, but there is a sense in which over and over God tends to surprise us that he can do more than what we thought. And so I invite you, the whole homily is out there on ShawnTheBaptist.org. Check that out, or here on either Shawn the Baptist page or the St. Patrick page. But God is always greater. I'd like to think what the apostles were doing when they saw Jesus working all these miracles. And today we had the gospel of Lazarus. Lazarus raised from the dead. Now, Jesus is, of course, not there when Lazarus gets sick. I mean, he's his best friend. Lazarus, Martha, Mary, these are his friends. In fact, it says that Jesus loved Lazarus and Mary and Martha. So there's no doubt about that. They are the most special people in his life after the apostles, probably. And Lazarus is sick unto death. And so Martha and Mary do what would seem logical. They send messengers to Jesus. And I love this because they don't even say, hey, Jesus, could you come? Jesus, we kind of need you. All they have to say is, Lord, the one you love is ill. And they know that will be enough. And they know that if Jesus just hears that Lazarus is sick, that clearly Jesus will do what is best. Now, like we so many times, we tend to think that we know what is best. So I imagine that Martha and Mary were thinking, of course, well, when Jesus finds out that Lazarus is sick, he'll probably come right away and lay hands on him, and Lazarus will get well. Or if he can't come in time, he'll do like he did with the centurion's servant. The centurion comes and says, hey, my servant is ill back at home. And Jesus says, he'll be healed. And he is, right at that moment, even way far away. I'm sure Mary and Martha were thinking something like that. So they've got to be perplexed when they send and there's no Jesus. He doesn't come. It seems like maybe Jesus has forgotten them. Did their messengers not get there? What happened that Jesus didn't get there and Lazarus died? And we might say that, well, okay, they've seen all kinds of miracles, so they've seen things in the past, like, well, Jesus has raised people from the dead. Yeah, but keep in mind, that was when, that person had just died. Jesus gets there and the daughter of Jairus, for instance, had just died, and he's like, Talitha cum, little girl, get up. And she does. Or the son of the widow of Nain, he just died, and they're carrying him out of the house, and he's like, hold on, and he raises him from the dead. So they kind of know that Jesus could raise people from the dead. But Lazarus, he's way dead. Okay, he's been dead for 4 days. Jewish law, if someone's dead for 3 days, they are legally out. They're dead. So it's beyond that. It's beyond what is even legally hopeful. Lazarus is dead for 4 days. So it's clear from the scriptures that, Mary, Martha, they are both of the impression that Jesus has blown it. Okay, if you'd gotten here a little bit earlier, you could have raised him from the dead even, or certainly if you've gotten here when he was sick, you could have done something about it. But now it's been 4 days, so they're even like, Lord, there will be a stench, and so there doesn't seem like there's much hope. They've seen Jesus do great things like heal people, great things like raise people from the dead, but they're not necessarily willing to think that God could even do greater. Deus semper maior, God is always greater. And so here it's the occasion for Jesus to do something greater than he's ever done. In fact, the greatest miracle that Jesus will ever work on this earth, he raises Lazarus from the dead after 4 days. He's always greater than what we think. So I think that's important for us to keep in mind in the midst of any frustration and difficulty, but especially in the midst of coronavirus time. Yes, it seems like lots of things are going wrong. We can't go to our churches. We have to stay at home. And those are all great sacrifices. But Deus semper maior, God will bring something greater, because God is always greater. Think of the greater things that may come of this. And I mentioned some of them in the homily today. I thought of the fact that, maybe for the first time in a long time, families today are gathering in their home to pray together, to worship God together on Sunday. That's amazing. Even Father Mark and I, who live together, we noted today, like, we're eating together a lot more. We're getting around the table together, and it's not like we haven't done that, but we're kind of like, hey, here we are. We're at home. We're still at home. We're doing the stay home thing, and so we go out and we exercise and we walk and we come back, and this is just Sunday the third week in pandemic time. I can't imagine what this is going to be like in a couple months, but we're seeing each other. We're both doing a School of Faith's Rosary podcast, and so we check that out. There are all kinds of things that, although there is suffering and loss, there are also greater things going on here. And this is the sad part, though, and there are people dying, and so it's easy to kind of be on the surface like, oh well, there are good things going on and God is always greater. Like, yeah, but I don't know, maybe people that they know here that have died of coronavirus. I know the first death in Washington, D.C. was one of the Franciscan friars of the monastery of the Holy Land, who was a friend of mine that I knew when I was there. So we've probably got people we know that, in fact, have died even. So I don't mean to make light of that. And Jesus doesn't make light of that. Notice when Lazarus dies, everyone's weeping, and Jesus weeps along with them. But Deus semper maior. And especially as we get ready for Easter, isn't that what this is all about? That Good Friday, that looks like the worst day in the history of the world, turns out to be the day of the world's salvation, because it leads to Easter Sunday, the resurrection from the dead, Jesus' atoning death for all of our sins. God is greater. God is always greater. And so maybe you've seen that already a little bit, and I hope so. That maybe as things start to kind of settle in, I don't know, a little bit, we can start to see some of the ways that God is, in fact, working despite this and is greater. Well, I see lots of people joining online and watching, and like to see your questions. And I asked a little bit what you did on your Sunday. And, obviously you're watching the Shawn the Baptist show, so that's pretty impressive. Appreciate that. I see, Curtis Ketty's getting on there from John Paul II Parish. Great to see that down in Olathe, the home of the famous and awesome Father Andrew Strobel, or maybe the awesome Curtis Ketty, who's in charge of all the adult faith formation there and working on music and everything now too. So shout out to John Paul II Parish down there in Olathe. Christy is on it, and she says that this morning they did a Sunday supplication from the Leaven, and they watched Mass online. So if you haven't checked it out, the Leaven is putting out a little Sunday supplication. They call it a little prayer service that you can do at home. If you're looking for how to lead things in your home, there is something that you can do there. I plugged the awesome Father Andrew. His mom is on. So shout out to Phyllis Strobel. Welcome, mother of the awesome Father Andrew. And Katie there, Christy mentioned watching Mass online. Interested to know how many people are doing that. Is that part of your Sunday routine now? Is that part of your daily routine? Do you watch Mass online? I know my former parish there at St. Michael's. They're taking a little different approach. That I heard that they're not putting, Mass live online. Rather, they're really trying to emphasize, as I've done here, that it would be good that watching Mass online, as good as that is, that's not as good as praying together as a family and doing some kind of service on your own as a family. And so I know that what they're doing at St. Michael's, I think the priests are, putting their homilies online and leading that a little bit to help people also join in from home to do that. And I see that Steve Nelson jumped on from Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico. I'm looking forward to being out there in June. I just got my paperwork that I'm all set and hired again to come back this summer. But you talk about giving things up. I mean, there's one thing that, boy, I hope this virus is done so that all the scouts can get out to Philmont. I just talked with a friend of mine from the staff, Olivia Starich, who is she was a backcountry manager last year, and she just is going to be starting medical school, and is going to be out at Philmont as one of the chief medical officers out there. I think this summer I just found out. So what a strange time to be starting medical school. And so shout out to all those out at Philmont. I know they're working from home as well. We out at Philmont refer to Philmont as home, heaven on little M-E, earth, home, heaven on earth out there. So shout out to Heaven on Earth, Steve Nelson, and all the staff that's trying to work around the clock out there at Philmont to get everything done away. I hope to be out there soon. So what things have you had to put on hold maybe because, obviously this hit right in the middle of spring break. So some of the people had to cancel spring break plans. A lot of people this week, it's going to be starting school from home. A lot of people are, becoming homeschool parents all of a sudden overnight that maybe you weren't ready for that. Can Shawn the Baptist Show be of any help to you and your homeschool students? I mentioned the other day I should have bought stock in Zoom because everybody seems to be Zooming. I haven't followed the news, but I hear Zoom is under attack. I don't know. So everyone's like, well, go do Google Hangouts or something. I'm like, I feel a little bit like we'd be changing lanes on the interstate. Traffic is slow, so Zoom is no. Everybody move over here. Go Google or whatever. This is going to be an interesting time just to adjust when everyone's taking their life online now. How is that working out? So I see a lot of you on the St. Patrick's page of this are saying that you've been watching the Archbishop's Mass. I know that he has been doing that live from his chapel. People have watched Mass from the Vatican. I have to say, for those just joining us just Sunday for the first time, it's incredible scenes from the Vatican this week. On Friday, Pope Francis led one of the most unique holy hours and blessings that I've ever seen. You gotta check out these pictures. I didn't grab one to put on here tonight, but my goodness, Pope Francis standing on the platform in the middle of St. Peter's Square, where ordinarily at this time he would be getting ready to lead people in Holy Week, and you think of St. Peter's Square just filled with tens of thousands of people because of the social distancing and things. You're not allowed to come there. They've canceled all the public events, but Pope Francis led a holy hour of prayer against the coronavirus from St. Peter's Square, and there are pictures of him standing alone on that platform and blessing the world, really, with Jesus in the monstrance in the Eucharist. I never seen anything like it. The Pope alone in St. Peter's Square. That may be the first time that has ever happened in history. I mean, St. Peter was crucified right there near where St. Peter's Square is today. The last time the Pope was alone in St. Peter's Square might have been St. Peter offering himself in martyrdom. So it really shows us the unprecedented time in which we live. So amazing the way that the church has to adjust, and to think that we live in times that, I don't know, years from now, people might be pointing back and saying, remember the time of coronavirus when the Pope offered a blessing there to the city and the world, Urbi et Orbi, from St. Peter's Square by himself. And with his master of ceremony, Guido Marini, is sitting like in a little chair off to the side. It's like not to get too close and social distancing. And check out those pictures from the Vatican from this week. EWTN Daily Mass. Jean Longup is saying that, and Joyce Gresco is pointing out that she's having a hard time finding Mass from last night. So if you're looking, I think Jane is thinking of the St. Patrick's Mass. So you can go to, if you're on the St. Patrick page here, just click on the little link on the side that says live. And, well, it won't be under live. Click on videos. It's under there. Or if you go to stpatrickkck, stpatrickkck.org, you'll find it there. Just click on the big button that says Masses. Shout out from Lisa. Good to have you on here as well. So, people have said that this is kind of a nice way just to connect with people. How are you connecting? Are you doing the Zoom video conferencing thing? Are you going out? Are you exercising? What are you doing to kind of get through these first weeks of coronavirus time? I know it's been a strange kind of a adjustment here for me, and maybe just to kind of give a shout out here, maybe some of the people who are watching are some of our elderly that maybe the younger people who are more technologically astute have showed you how to get the Shawn the Baptist show, sharing it with you. Maybe if not live, at least this gets shared around. So here's a prayer for all the grandparents and everything stuck in nursing homes, especially my grandparents, Howard and Marianne Kennedy, are in their residence there in Leavenworth, and I know that they will probably not be able to see this because they are not all that technologically astute, which I assume is going to be a case for a lot of our elderly. But just to know that they're not forgotten, that I mentioned that as we pray the Mass, whether we're watching online or certainly when I celebrate here by myself in the empty St. Patrick Church in Kansas City, I go to the altar with all those prayers, and I especially pray for my grandparents, Howard and Marianne, tonight, and all those who are separated from their loved ones because of this. And there are a lot of sick people in the hospital right now who are alone because, especially those with coronavirus, they're quarantined, or even just because of other people who have the coronavirus, people are quarantined and they can't have visitors. And especially praying for Debbie Niermeyer, who had surgery this week, and she's home now, I believe, recovering. And so for her husband, Deacon Dana Niermeyer, and for Debbie Niermeyer, a lot of people praying for Debbie this week and her recovery. And just a shout out to all those. And of course, I say shout out, but that's such a modern kind of technical thing. People say that because they're like, oh, sending like prayers and good wishes. People think, well, what does that do? At this time especially, people, let's not doubt the power, really, of sending prayers. And not even so much sending prayers, but that we offer them. You know, I once had a good friend of mine, Kathy Denny at the time, she's married now, but mentioned that, like, she'd always heard that we could send our guardian angel to people. So to Kathy Seitz that's out there, who one time when I was having some surgery, said that she would send her guardian angel to me. And I thought, that's awesome. I had never even thought of that. So thank you, Kathy, for that. And if you've got loved ones that are suffering right now that you can't visit, I don't know, try sending your guardian angel, maybe, or at least send prayers. Pray to God. And of course, all the angels and saints are right before God, face to face in heaven. So if we send our prayers there, certainly our prayers are heard before God, and God, who can do all things, um, will do what is necessary. And by do what is necessary, note again the gospel today. Uh, Lazarus died. Jesus let Lazarus die. And to some extent, we have to admit, as hard as it is, that God is allowing people to suffer right now. God is allowing people to die from coronavirus. God is allowing this suffering. And so what to make of that? Well, on the one hand, we can say, well, Dave Sempermeyer, God is always greater. So just like in the gospel, sure, Jesus can do something greater, even in the face of death. And we can be like Martha there, like, Lord, I know my brother will rise on the last day. Okay, that can be so kind of, half-hearted. Like, okay, yeah, we know things get better in heaven. Things will be really great in heaven, but right now they suck. Okay, we once had a speaker for all the priests, Brother Shawn from Nebraska. He's like, telling people that, things suck on earth and then they get better in heaven. He called that the gospel of the suck. Like, okay, PG, I guess there, people. So, no offense, but we are not living the gospel of the suck. Okay, that things are bad on earth, and then at the end they get better in heaven. Okay, the good news, the gospel is better news than that. However, we do have to say that God allows a lot of stuff to go badly in this life. What do we make of that right now while we're in it, and God seems to not want to answer our prayers? Well, here's the thing. Every time that things go bad, don't pretend they're not bad. They really are bad, okay? There are a lot of bad things happening right now, and we don't have to pretend like, oh, well, they're good things too, so it all kind of balances out, and isn't that great? Maybe there is no balance right now. Maybe you're really suffering. Okay. Martha, Mary, all the Jews with her, crying, weeping. Jesus does not show up and say, hey, people, knock it off, okay? Why all the weeping? Get it together. Jesus doesn't do that. He actually weeps too. I mean, think how amazing that is. And Jesus not only knows that, hey, things will get better, Lazarus will rise. Of course Lazarus will rise. Not even just on the last day, but Jesus intends that Lazarus is going to rise right now because he's going to do it in about 30 seconds. And still Jesus weeps. He enters into the suffering. So definitely enter into the suffering of this, whatever that suffering is for you. Don't try to minimize it. It's real. Whatever it is, it's real. Be there. Weep. That's okay. Do it. But then realize that Jesus will do something. And he might even allow incredible suffering to the point even of death. But God is always greater, and he will bring some greater good. And I suspect not just on the last day, but right now. And I mentioned some of those things, okay? So maybe as we go forward into this week, keep those things in mind. Maybe look out for the ways that you see God doing something greater. And here's something I invite you at the end of each day. Never end the day without some kind of litany of gratitude, okay? Acknowledge the hurt, absolutely. And, I don't know if Steve Nelson is still on here from Philmont, but here's another Philmont shout out, because one of the things that we do at Philmont, whenever the crews are out there hiking, even amongst the staff at Philmont, each night before we end the day, we go through what we call thorns, roses, and buds, or roses, thorns, and buds, if you want to go that way, RTB. And what this is the roses are the things that we want to give thanks for, things that went well. And then the thorns are, of course, things that went wrong, things that were frustrating to us, things that did not go so well. And then the buds are the things that we are looking forward to for the next day, for tomorrow. Okay? So roses, thorns, and buds, RTB. Do that at the end of your day. I think we're pretty good about thorns. We're like, this sucked, this went wrong, this is awful. All the kind of things that went wrong. Absolutely. We're pretty good about, telling everybody the things that went wrong. All right, that's not bad. Tell God, too, the things that went wrong. Those are the thorns. But notice we start with roses before the thorns. St. Ignatius of Loyola came up with this long before Roses, Thorns, and Buds at Philmont. But he's like, always start with gratitude. Start with Thanksgiving, the things that went well. So as you come to the end of your day here today, I encourage you, do some Roses, Thorns, and Buds. Be thankful first. Start with the roses. What was good today? You know, my rose today, I got up and I prayed like normal. I made the Liturgy of the Hours, and I'm praying the Divine Office in Latin, and so I didn't have to start Mass at any particular time, so I got to just pray really slowly and take all that in, and then I had a beautiful time of prayer in the church today. I was celebrating Mass, and I'll get a picture of this, I think, for tomorrow, but I was celebrating Mass right as the sun came up, all by myself, and here at St. Patrick's, our church faces east, literally geographical east. And so I was celebrating Mass Adorantum because it was the Latin Mass. And so Adorantum towards the east, literally facing east, standing on the same side of the altar as the people. And so right as I was raising the Eucharist and the Sacred Host, the sun was coming up through the stained glass window. And I was in darkness. As I raised Jesus in the Eucharist, the sun hit the host in a way that, holy cow, it was absolutely amazing. And so that's a rose for me today. And I'll put a picture of that up for tomorrow. I think it was incredible. Thorn today, I had a lot of trouble trying to do a lot of things at once. I got really busy this morning. I was getting frustrated because I wanted to get the Mass videos up for St. Patrick's because I know that people wanted to watch it, and I didn't get it up in time. And I was trying to do a lot of things, so I got frustrated with myself and felt like, hey, I'm not doing good enough. And so that was kind of a thorn for me. A bud for tomorrow is I got a great meeting with my counselor coming up. And we're working on a lot of great things. So shout out to those who might be struggling mentally a little bit right now. There's a lot of things that are stretching us. So, if you've got a good spiritual mentor, we've got the great spiritual mentorship program in our diocese that the Apostles in the Interior Life are doing. Call up your spiritual mentor. Call up your spiritual director. Don't be afraid to reach out to your counselor. My counselor is willing to Zoom with me or video conference if Zoom is compromised now. I don't know. So there's a bud for me to know that even when things get a little down and I can get, a little worried about things, I've got people I can talk to. So that's kind of a rose too. They're right there for me. I'm thankful for them. But there's also a bud that even when things are difficult, there's something good coming. So I'm checking the questions, and it looks like I've got to them today, and I do hope that a chance to gather for the Shawn the Baptist show is helpful. Annie Kalovich is on from Wichita. Thanks for being there, Father. I live in Wichita, but went to grade school at St. Pat's. Ah, great. Oh, Father Trumpeter. But my dad helped to set up the big crucifix and did a lot of work around there, and I go to the Latin Mass as much as possible and enjoy hearing about that too. Thanks. Okay, Annie, great. That huge crucifix, when I hold up Jesus and the Eucharist there and the sun was hitting it, like the host is right in front of Jesus's face on that big, huge crucifix. So it's really wonderful. There's a picture of that on our Facebook page, so check that out. Marcia says she looks forward to the show every night. So my plan is maybe to take tomorrow off, Monday, because Monday is normally my day off. I haven't been taking a day off here for like the last 2 weeks. Now you may think like, well, isn't every day off now? It's taken a lot of work actually to shut everything down to try to do nothing. So I've been learning how to be a television producer kind of in the last couple of days, and I'm learning new tricks each day. So stay tuned. Who knows what I'll do? I might take tomorrow off. So, if there is no Shawn the Baptist show tomorrow, know that I'm praying for you. It will be back on Tuesday. If I'm around and I'm just feeling like, hey, I missed the folks, maybe I'll go live, maybe I won't. But if there is no Shawn the Baptist show tomorrow, know that I have not forgotten you. I am just taking my day off. So that is all the news tonight from St. Patrick's. This has been the Shawn the Baptist show for March 29th, 2020, live from St. Patrick Catholic Church in Kansas City, Kansas. I am Shawn the Baptist, Father Shawn Tunick, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and I hope that this is fruitful for you and your families. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit come down on you and remain with you forever. Amen. Saint Shawn the Baptist? That's not quite right. I'm not a saint yet. Saint John the Baptist. Pray for us. Good night, everybody.